Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Friday, and welcome to the final day of this week's devotion. This week, we've been walking through just some people in Scripture who displayed incredible faith. And I just want to quickly remind you who all we've discussed. So, on the first day of this, on Tuesday, we talked about Peter walking on water and just the faith that it took to step out of the boat as he was sitting with the other disciples and they saw Jesus on the water, and Jesus simply commanded him, "Come," and he didn't give him any further instructions, and Peter had the faith to walk on water. Then on Wednesday, we talked about Benaiah, and we talked about him going into a pit with a lion on a snowy day and just the faith to chase the roar and to chase the lion. Then yesterday, we talked about Eleazar, and we talked about the fact that he had grown weary in fighting, but he didn't grow weary enough to quit. But he had fought so long that his hand froze to the sword as he fought the Philistines. I think as we look at people of great faith in Scripture, I think it's important for us to not only look at the people who looked on the outside incredibly faithful. It's easy to look at a guy who chased down a lion and say, that's a man that's faithful. It's easy to see a guy walk on water and know, that's a guy that's faithful. But I think we also need to look at the people who exemplify 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7, which says, man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Now in Matthew 8, verses 5 through 13, we meet a Roman officer who really looked nothing like the people who believed in and trusted Christ. Let's see what it says. Again, it's Matthew chapter 8, verses 5 through 13. It says this: when he, talking about Jesus, when he had entered Capernaum, a centurion came forward to him, appealing to him, "Lord, my servant is lying paralyzed at home, suffering terribly." And he said to him, "I will come and heal him." But the centurion replied, "Lord, I am not worthy to have you come under my roof, but only say the word and my servant will be healed. For I too am a man under authority, with soldiers under me, and I say to one, 'Go,' and he goes, and to another, 'Come,' and he comes, and to my servant, 'Do this,' and he does it." When Jesus heard this, he marveled and said to those who followed him, "Truly I tell you, with no one in Israel have I found such faith. I tell you, many will come from east and west and recline at table with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven, while the sons of the kingdom will be thrown into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." And to the centurion, Jesus said, "Go, let it be done for you as you have believed." And the servant was healed at that very moment. Now, what's amazing about this about this officer was this. In that time, a Roman centurion was a career military officer, obviously in the Roman army, and he had control over 100 soldiers. Now, they were hated by the Jews because they mistreated them, they oppressed them, they ridiculed them. All the Jewish people couldn't stand the Roman centurions and the Roman soldiers. And yet here we find a Roman centurion who had great faith in who Christ was. He had great faith in who Christ was, not to the point that he believed that Christ could save and heal someone, but number one, he didn't even feel worthy to have Christ under his roof, and he understood that Christ was so powerful and was so compelled by God that just saying the word, he could heal his paralyzed servant. Now, I think it's really cool to note that in both the Gospel of Luke and the Gospel of Matthew, the Greek word used here is thaumazo. It is translated as marveled or amazed, and it describes Jesus' response to the centurion's faith. The only other time that we see this word being used to describe Jesus' response to others' faith is in Mark chapter 6, verse 6, and it's when he marvels at the lack of faith in the people of Nazareth. I don't want you to miss this moment. Jesus was so impressed by the Roman centurion's faith that he said, "No one in Israel has faith as strong as this." This is a man who was despised by the Jewish people. This is a man who probably in his life had mistreated them, had been under ridicule, had done all of these things to Jewish people. And in this moment, Jesus is saying, there is not another person that has more faith than him. Can you imagine in this season if we all approached each day, each struggle, each moment of uncertainty with faith that amazed Jesus? Faith that Jesus would see and not only marvel at, but use as an example for others of how we should trust and believe. Now, let's not forget that Hebrews 11:1 says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." It then goes on to list what is known as the Hall of Faith. It's just a list of people who in Scripture displayed great faith. Other people who understood that our hope rests in the Father. Other people who understood that having faith meant letting go of control. It meant sometimes I'm going to get called into an uncomfortable position like Peter. It means sometimes I'm going to have to face my biggest fear and chase a 420-pound lion like Benaiah. It meant sometimes I'm going to have to just make it through a season fighting so hard, clinging to the word so much that my hand freezes to it like Eleazar. And sometimes it means understanding that even Christ's words can heal and save. As we bring this week's devotions to a close, I want to leave you with a quote from Billy Graham. Someone had asked him about what it looked like to have great faith, and here's what he said. He said, God will not reward fruitfulness. He will reward faithfulness. As you go today and you walk into this weekend and this whole coronavirus pandemic is taking on a completely different feel as things are opening up and we're trying to navigate this season, live in full faith of who Christ is and what he's capable of. Know that not only is he who he says he is, but he can be the one. He has to be the one to heal and sustain us in this season. I hope and I pray that as we walk through this season and eventually when this season comes to a close, that like this Roman centurion, we would understand that even Christ's words can bring healing, that even Christ's words can bring salvation. And we would understand that though we're not worthy, he desires relationship with us. Though we're not worthy, he wants us to trust him and to have faith in him. So as you go, have a thaumazo type faith that Jesus will marvel at and be amazed by. I hope that this has been encouraging for you. I hope that you've experienced fruit from it, but more than anything, I hope that this has convicted all of us to look at our faith and decide if it's where it needs to be with Christ. Have a great day. We'll see you guys later.